We getting ready to blow. We getting ready to blow. We getting ready to, so ready to, oh so ready to.
I'ma go get it.
We getting ready to.
I'ma go get it.
We getting ready to.
I'ma go get it.
We getting ready to, so ready to, oh so ready to.
We ready for jump ball, center court now, standing tall now, hold the fort down. This is showtime, more than sports now, more than crunch time. We rush like fourth down.
I be taking wins, we don't mess with laws. I be taking wins, we don't mess with laws. I be taking wins, we don't mess with laws. I be taking wins, we don't mess with laws. We been on that paper chasing all that fashion. We been on that paper chasing what you ration.
Been in the grind now, we ready for prime time, ready for shine now, we ready to get mine. On the rise, all eyes up on us now. Blast off spaceships till the touchdown.
Energy level on high, put that trouble on fire. Double it down, I'ma spit it around. Click, clack, boom, we the best in town. Energy level on high, put that trouble on fire. Double it down, I'ma spit it around. Click, clack, boom, we the best in town. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though. I started off the lowest point in life, though.
We getting ready to, so ready to, oh so ready to blow. Yo. Fly's in the building.
Yo,
What up, Fly?
man.
Happy let's start on a good note. Happy Friday, Fly.
Happy Friday, my brother.
Absolutely, man. I enjoyed the beauty of the day. I did not enjoy last night, as we know.
Yeah.
I did not enjoy the
that
last
night.
three games. But yeah, it was tough. Were you letting the dogs out over there?
Say it again.
I said, what are you letting the dogs out over there? Like, what's going on?
Nah, man, you know, my kids, man, got all kinds of stuff going on, man.
Yeah, man. So, do your kids have any awareness that it's the Celts post-mortem party? Do they know? Do they have any awareness?
My eldest son, he watches the game. He watches basketball with me.
Man, it was tough. It was a tough go.
So
Not
what
gonna
made
lie,
it for you? What was the most challenging part?
The challenging part is you coming in loud, bro.
Yeah,
your mic's picking up that whole house.
That's the great outdoors, man.
Actually, I can't turn you down. I was like, well, let me turn you down. Well, actually, I can. I can turn you down just a touch. Let me turn you down a touch. I'm assuming you still hear me, but I'll tell you, for me, the toughest part of the whole thing was knowing that talent-wise, you're probably the better team. And I think this was 2-1. People like, oh man, what's Golden State gonna do? They look overmatched. They look outclassed. Similar to the last series the Celts were in, where you're like, oh, the Celts are the better team. Then all of a sudden they're losing some games they shouldn't lose. And you started to see the incredible propensity for turnovers once Smart got injured in the last series. Not that Smart is turnover immune, but Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown were really exposed for the dribble drive ability they have to either charge. There were a lot of those turnovers were charges. A lot of them were ridiculous trying to thread the needle passes. Just like instead of shooting, just like there's one thing to pass too much, and there's another thing to not pass enough. And early on in the Celtics season, they didn't pass enough. And then they got almost addicted to thinking, when you play into the playoffs, it's not like you playing in the regular season and you're making some passes that, the defense might not be as hard, especially the end of the year when teams have already cashed it in many cases, right? And they got away with it in the first round because they were so much better the team. I mean, they won in like 4 games. I think it was a sweep, right? The first round was 4 games. Then after that, the series went all the way.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? They started
the next 2 series went all the way.
Yeah, when they played New Jersey and Milwaukee, you could actually see, and you could definitely see it in Tatum. Even though Tatum was playing really well in those series, he was spent. I mean, it was like, like this ain't the same Tatum we were seeing just a few weeks before. It was like he was working to put. I mean, when he was covering Giannis and KD the whole game, playing both ways, right? That dude would come out of the game, and he was playing like, dropping 37, 40, whatever it was. He was dropping ridiculous numbers, but it was like, dude is like all over the court. And same for Jaylen Brown. You can see, like, you would be like, this dude came out like a lion, but near the end of the games, it was like, they were a little gassed. And I think once Smart got injured, it really exposed the fact that these dudes are not point guards. You know what I'm saying? It's like they can't. People were like, oh yeah, they're great dribblers. They'll just be. No, it's different in the playoffs. If you don't have a point guard, you're gonna get exposed. And they were. And then Smart came back, and it looked a little bit better for a little while. But then they go trying to thread needles. And Smart, obviously the blame goes to Tatum, and the blame goes to Jaylen Brown in terms of the turnover numbers. I mean, Jason Tatum had 100 turnovers in the playoffs, right? That's a big number. Now, granted, they played a lot of games, and he had the ball in his hands too much, especially when Smart was out. And not just when Smart was out. Smart for the last games hasn't been, obviously he's not playing. This is the thing, right? People get a sprained ankle. If I sprain my ankle, I'm out for a month. You know what I'm saying? My whole life. If I sprain my ankle, I could barely walk. These dudes are back in like 3 days. Like, oh yeah, we're fine. Just need a few days. I was like, what? I get you getting stim. I've had stim on my ankles too, but I ain't going to play the next day. You know what I'm saying? Like, shout out to Tufts in Massachusetts, an elite school. Tufts has an amazing medical program too. I went there for my ankle way after the fact. I should have went early. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
And actually, one of the people getting stim was a former Celtic, and he was talking to me about the injury I have. He's like, dude, it's never going to be the same. He's like, you did double tendons. And he's right. It's like it was never the same. Like my ankle, if I play too long, it starts to hurt. And it's like these dudes are like, out there, and it's not an age thing. It's like if you have that injury, it's gonna be with you your whole life. Like the dude was on the former Celtic player was telling me, and he was like, dude, he's like, I know exactly what you did. And he's like, it was the end of my career. Because you can't play at the elite level when you have that kind of injury. I had double tendon on the same ankle. And it was like I couldn't walk for like months, bro. Like months. I'm like walking with a limp. And these dudes are playing in the game. Oh, yeah, it's just train. Nah, bro. It's like if you're trying to play at an elite level, and Smart is a great athlete, but he's not an elite athlete. I mean, he's 6'4" and he can jam with 2 hands with no problem. But, in the NBA,
it's more his tenacity and his awareness that makes him,
yes.
It's something that makes him that compensates for his lack of athleticism.
Yeah. Like if you see a 6'4" dude down the street who can 2-hand flush in a game, that's very athletic. I mean, you'd be telling your friends, you'd be like, I said a 6'4" dude, he's flushing like he's 6'9", right? Marcus Smart, if he was at your local gym, you'd be like, this dude's an elite athlete. But in the NBA, he's not an elite athlete. He's a good athlete. You know what I'm saying? Right. And when you take a good athlete who's only got good handle, Marcus Smart does not have elite handle, right? He's a 2-guard, really. And they have him playing the point guard. And to me, the only weakness the Celtics actually have, well, the bench is another story, but the weakness the Celtics have is true point guard, right? A lot of teams deal with that. Marcus Smart is so elite on defense that it makes up for it against almost everyone. You know what I'm saying? So if he's injured, it's going to be a little different. And so I think they're really exposed having to play. Really, Pritchard gave them nothing in this finals, and I really thought that he would. And I think it's so obvious to say, Tatum had too many turnovers. Jaylen Brown's throwing the ball out of bounds, bouncing it off his knee, right? But the bench gave us nothing in the last few games. But they're taxed too. Everyone has their level of what they can play at,
But when you really think about what you described it, man, the Celtics bench, they don't really have a bench. I mean, it was like
They
competing.
have an adequate bench for a regular season. They have a great. I mean, you can play.
Yeah.
You know, the other thing is the disappearance of Tice. I thought was a little. Not that Tice is the end all be all. He's not, but he's a serviceable player who's reasonably athletic and long, and he could have matched up. Like honestly, they needed somebody else in front of Wiggins, and you could have played Tice in retrospect 7 minutes a game. Would that be too much to ask? Right? They were sitting Robert Williams a lot because of his injury, and it was either Al or the other Williams, and the other Williams gave us nothing in these last few games. Nothing. We got nothing out of Williams.
Grant was vacant, but I think some of it too is
you couldn't get a little Tice. You know,
I always felt like there was a reason why Boston was going 7 games in both of those series against the better teams.
Right.
I'm gonna say that a lot of people were disappointed with Boston. I don't think the way it ended was disappointing. I think they overachieved, honestly.
No, they absolutely did, bro. It's just this is the thing. You're right. They overachieved. We have to remember they overachieved. But when you're watching the game and it looks like your team basically quit, right? They didn't. I mean, they left it out on the court. It's clear. But the thing is that, like, talking about Tatum for a second, right? When you watch Tatum the last 3 games, starting in game 4, when you watch Tatum and game 5 was really alerting, dude was throwing up air balls and legs look wobbly in the fourth quarter. And it's like, people are like, gee, what is he, just soft? He falls apart in the fourth quarter? He's spent. He's 20. He just turned 24. He played in the Olympics. They play regular seasons, right? Played a regular season and 23 extra games, right? Plus, they play at the beginning end. And plus, he's the dude carrying the entire team at 23-24. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, dude's not there yet. He's not at that.
Wall, and
right. Everyone hits a wall.
That's my point.
And so people are like, people are like, you're gonna hear this too. If it wasn't Tatum, it would be the same thing with Brown. Imagine if there was no Tatum and it was just Brown, right? Brown would be dribbling off his foot 50,000 more times, right? And it's like, people will be like, oh, he saw whatever they're gonna say. It's like, dude, get it straight, right? These people are elite basketball players, elite, right? And you're going to a team like Golden State that, by the way, which has some of the most advanced analytics in the NBA, right? The things that they do for analytics is ridiculous. Like, there's a few articles out there, if you search them, what Golden State did for analytics. They have state-of-the-art analytics that analyze not only the plays that they're doing in the game, analyzes all their play. It's a recording device that records them in practice during the finals when they're shooting in warm-ups, and the team gets the analytics of what's their most likely propensity of shots to hit for each player in each scenario, right? So it takes the game scenarios, the warm-up shots, everything, and it makes a composite, and it says this is the adjustment essentially that you want to make. So that's a whole nother thing, right? So when you're playing under a microscope and you're playing against an experienced team who's been there before, if you have any kink in the armor, it's going to show. And the Celtics have a couple, but so does every team. And the thing is, what's frustrating is they were more than good enough to win. You saw that the ESPN analytics was a little crazy. It was like 84% likeliness the Celtics would. No, not 84. 80 something. Like 83 and 17, right? It was like, yo, that was crazy,
bro. I felt like Boston was good. I never expected Boston to be in the finals. I always saw them as a team getting ready to be a team to be in the finals in the next couple of years. So that's how I always viewed them.
Right. Like, here's the thing, right? Michael Jordan won his first championship, 28. Okay, let's keep in mind, Marcus Smart is 28. Okay, he just turned 20. He's 28 this year, right? Yeah. Just 28, right? Tatum is just 24, played the whole season at 23. Jaylen Brown turned 25, right? So he was 24 and turned 25, right? It's a young team when your veteran on your team just turned 28. Obviously, Horford, now that we got him back midway through the season, he's our veteran, but and played well for a dude who people were writing off.
He wasn't the best player, but he's the most consistent player on Boston.
That's right. Team. That's right. Here's the thing, right? As bad as Tatum played in the finals, he still was the best player for the Celtics on the court.
Absolutely. And Jaylen Brown was good too. They were good, man.
Absolutely. Yeah, Jaylen Brown, you could make that argument too. But what I'm saying is, like, here's the funny thing, right? This is the funny thing. I think I don't have the stats in front of me going into the game. going into the game, Tatum was a hair under 50% from three. and that's after a 2 for 12 or whatever it was he had in the first one from three. He was shooting lights out. He had one game he was 3 for 9, and then he was like good, 5 for 8, 4 for 7, like 6 for 9, right? Like he was actually balling from three. But here's the thing: a lot of those threes were early, and when he's feeling it, and his legs weren't there on the 2-point shots, you could see it. You could even see in the first half when he did one of his little turnaround, it was short. His free throws, short. In the fourth quarter, it looked like he didn't even want the ball. He was so tired, right? And it was like, yo, they had to bring him in the game when Golden State went on that horrific run and they were trying to rest him. They're like, nope, let's bring back in Tatum. And it was like, if anything, you should have, like, finding more time to rest him would have been key. And the same thing for Brown. It's like Brown looked more fresh than Tatum. Tatum looked ridiculously gassed at the end of this series. He looked gassed at the end of the last series. Yeah. And if they would have won some of those easy games when they were trying to rest Williams, it would have helped Tatum because Tatum was taxed. And that's part of it. But here's the thing. Steph Curry, how many championships did he have in it when he was 23 going on 24? 0, right? How many NBA All-Star appearances did he have? 0. So let's slow down, right, on the Tatum and Brown or not. Yeah, dude, Steph Curry didn't do anything until he was about Michael Jordan's age as well. 27 is when you start seeing like the elite play of Steph Curry. You start seeing the elite play.
That, man. But I would say this too, because of players.
But they had the chance, so it's like, dude, you had the chance.
Yeah, because of players like Stephen Curry is the reason why players like Jason Tatum are more successful at a younger age. Because of the Michael Jordans and the players that came before them and the advanced analytics that these players now have in high school and college, the YouTube videos and all the stuff they get to watch and the train and all the stuff that they get now because technology is advanced. So same thing with Luka Doncic. He's a kid too. So I always, again, just my personal feeling. I remember the last time we had the ProQuo Show, like 2 weeks ago, I said Golden State in 6 on the show. And I always felt
Celts in 4.
That
didn't work out for me. I really truth. I thought Celts in 6 really going into it. I was saying Celts in 4. I really thought Celts in 6, to be honest.
Yeah, they did great, man. I felt like they overachieved. I always felt like they weren't quite over that hump to be a championship team. I felt like they were definitely headed in the direction. They overachieved this year. I think people were overzealous about Tatum because he's been so good so soon, but this is soon. Like, how could you really expect more from this kid? He just turned
and Brown has gotten it. Brown, I think, has gotten close to his ceiling. Like Brown, I know he's a year older. Brown has gotten there with the speed that I wasn't even sure that he would. At some point, I didn't think he'd get there, right? And it's like in Jaylen Brown's first year, I was like, ooh, was that a smart pick? You know what I mean? And then like second year, you're like, ooh, this might work out. Then his third year, you're like, yo, Jaylen Brown is a beast. And then once you had Tatum in the mix and Tatum's first year, you could see. I mean, like, what a brilliant pick this was, right? Tatum, like, it's funny, all the memes and stuff, like Tatum's not that dude, right? Tatum is that dude. And I know there's a lot of people who will overreact and be like, oh, yeah, like their best player didn't rise to the occasion. That sounds good in a movie. That sounds good in movie script. It's like, and you're never supposed to say I'm tired because that's not tough guy enough, right? He can't be in a press conference and go, dude, I was taxed. And the coach can't say it either because you get chewed apart. Be like, NBA alpha. He's supposed to be an alpha. First of all, he's not an alpha. That's not his personality in the first place. He's like an alpha minor. He's like, he's like an A minus, whatever that is.
Passive aggressive.
Yeah, it's like he's a beast when he needs to be a beast, but he's not a screamer, he's not a yeller. He's a nice dude. He's a good human. He's not trying to, you know what I'm saying? And people will say, oh, look at that. See, he's not an alpha male. You have to have an alpha dog. They need to be more like Jaylen Brown. Jaylen Brown's a little bit more alpha than he is, right? So it's like Marcus Smart is the alpha on the team. Marcus Smart is the one who's going to tell you what to do in your face. He's, like they said a few years ago, you really about that life? He's about that life, at least on the court. He's that dude, and but if you look at their personality, the Al Horfords, he's not that dude. He's a nice dude who's a good nice player, man. Right? Yeah. You don't have to be like, first of all, Golden State outside of
Draymond.
Draymond, they don't have that personality either. None of them have that personality. People be like, oh, the killers. Steph's not a killer just because the ball goes in. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's a nice dude. You know what I'm saying? He's not like he's not Jordan. He's not a for lack of better words.
But
You know, it's not the same thing.
why the blend
Nor
of
is Kevin
superstar
Durant.
talent. And that's why it worked, because of their personalities. The reason why KD was able to play with Steph, because of their personalities. KD
Absolutely,
and Michael Jordan might not have worked out, or to see what happened with Kyrie and LeBron, or KD and some of the other players.
LeBron is an alpha, and LeBron hasn't even said congratulations to the Golden State Warriors
or
on his
Shaq
Twitter
and
thing.
Kobe.
Right. Shaq and Kobe, right?
These are alphas.
That's people that all they know is being an alpha. Like, I got to be an alpha. Like, I am not an alpha. I'm not that dude. You know what I'm saying? I'd be on the dude. I'd be shaking your hand and picking you up off the court. I'd be like, yo, nice play. But if you get me mad, then, yeah, that's different. But it's like, I think all people are like that. You get anybody. But I'm not out there to make you look silly or do anything like that, right? By the way, I don't know where I put it. Oh, man. I got my my little trophy today from I got my little Six Flags trophy. So I got my 3-point shot on. Got my I had to redeem myself because I don't know if you know. So the first time I went to Six Flags,
I know you told me, bro. I know.
Yeah, it was like to get 2 in was an accomplishment. You know what I'm saying? It was like, yo, with the practice ball and like, so it's 4, 4, and 4. You get like 12 shots, dude. I was like 1-4 or 2-4, 12, right? And here's the thing. I can shoot 3-pointers, right? I was telling the dude who was there was a bunch of people in front of me today, and the dudes were shooting, right? And so, and I said to this dude filming, he was filming like his older brother. He looked like he was like 25 or something, and he looked like he could shoot, right? And I walk up to him and I go, I got him for 2. I go, the over-under's 2. And he looks at me, he's like, oh, what are you saying? And I was like, no, what I'm saying is like, he looks like a good shooter. And the way this thing is set up, he's gonna probably hit 2 shots. He hit 1, right? He hit his last shot, right? Like in his last shot. And so I say to the guy, he's like, yo, how'd you know? And I'm like, bro, I've been here and I hit like 1. I hit 2, like my best. And I'm telling you right now, I can hit 12 straight 3-pointers. Like I shoot every day, like I'm a shooter, right? And they're like, I've worked to become a shooter. And it was like, I got videos in my phone right now of me hitting like 20 straight 3-pointers, right? And from beyond the distance that this thing is at, this was like high school distance, right? And I'm like, bro, it's at an angle. The rims are smaller. The thing bounces like a foot if you hit the rim, and the balls are super bouncy. I was like, it's got everything against you. You have to swish it, and it has to be perfect. In an actual basket, you have 3 inches on each side of the ball. That's how much wiggle room you have. I'm like, when you look up there and you see this ball, what do you see for wiggle room? It's like a half an inch on each side, right?
Yep.
Ball's overinflated. It's those bouncy balls that no one wants to use at a basketball court that they sometimes have, the toy basketballs. It's like those kind, right? They have one good ball in the rack. And so I hit like, I think in my max, I hit like 7, right? And it's like, and because one of them was a money ball. So in reality, I hit 6 out of 12. You know what I'm saying? And I'm like, and I said to the guy at the thing, we'll get off this topic, but I said to the guy at the thing, but this was my redemption story. So it's the only good basketball feeling I have today because I didn't get to go and do my shoot. So I hit like 6 of 12, right? And at a thing where like a great shooter can hit like 3. I was saying it before. I was talking about, I went 2 months ago and I was like, Jason Tatum couldn't hit 3 on this, and or Steph Curry would hit like 5. You know what I mean? And I was like, all right, I'm exaggerating. They would probably hit a few more than that, but the rim is like small. The basket's overinflated, and they have it going up a hill, and you feel like you're on flat. The way they have it, they have like this white thing, and they've leveled it so you don't realize you're shooting up a hill, and they give you the rack, so it feels like you're in a regular court. And I'm like, bro, at worst, at a high school 3-point line, if I'm getting to shoot 12 shots, I'm gonna hit 9. I'm telling you right now, And I hit 1 last time I was there, and I'm like, I'm winning that ball today. And they're like, what? I'm like, it's just a cheesy ball. That's all you get, It's actually, it was pretty cool though. It was a DC ball because the whole park is DC. So it was like it says Six Flags, Superman, Green Lantern was on that bad boy. But anyways, enough of that. That was my only good basketball story I have to make me feel good today.
You have to be proud of the Celtics, man. They overachieved, man. I know it's harder coming, from being a Boston fan for you, but man, they overachieved, man. I don't think they could have done more than what they've done, man. Just considering they were young, they were 100 and some games out of.
We got to read Tree's comment too. Read these comments. So this is my man Daz. Dad, I don't understand you, Daz. I know you're originally from New York. You were like lifelong Boston before you moved. and you a Golden State fan, bro. I see you rooting for Golden State. I was like, what? Listen, my man Daz is a Golden State. As good as the Celts were, they lacked championship DNA experience. Yep, that they'll need to overcome certain situations. True. Give them a few more years, they'll be there. All right, got that. I agree. I think it could be next year, honestly. If here's what I would do. I posted
They
this
had to
today
make
on a thing.
changes at the point guard position for them to be
Malcolm. I would get Malcolm at point guard. I would get
Malcolm
Brogdon.
Brogdon.
Yeah, Brogdon. Excuse me, Malcolm Brogdon. Malcolm Brogdon is like a rich man's Marcus Smart.
He is.
So better jumper, actually a very good jumper, very good jumper. A little bit more pass first than most guards. He's another alpha minus. He's an A minus kind of guy. He's keep his head down. He doesn't talk much. He shoots great. He doesn't make dumb plays ever. He's also big, which the Celtics
brilliant.
like. He's like
Yeah,
he's
6'4".
6'5".
Yeah.
No, he's 6'5", actually. He's actually 6'5". Smart's
brilliant.
listed at 6'4". I think Smart's like a really tall 6'3". He's like a 6'3.5". They list him at 6'4". Brogdon might be 6'4.5". They list him at 6'5". Brogdon's taller than Smart, younger than Smart, more assists than Smart, better shooter than Smart, a good defensive player, but he's not Marcus Smart. That to me is your starting point guard. You put him on this team.
They
I would break the bank for that. If I'm the Celtics, if I could have Marcus Smart be my sixth man, you're a winning team. If Marcus Smart's your starting point guard, you're going to the Eastern Conference Finals, but you're probably not beating Steph Curry.
I would start my lineup. My lineup would be to start Marcus Smart, but he can play the 2. I put him at the 2 because that gives them opportunity to force.
You're right.
To your point, you need to be able to give Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum the opportunity to not be on the best players all the time. But if you put Marcus Smart in the game, you give Brown
check that starting lineup.
Tatum with Williams at center.
Check that starting lineup. Right. I'll check that starting lineup up. You got Williams at center, who, by the way, if we had a healthy Williams, we probably win another game. Right. I don't think, I'm not saying we win 7, but we win another game. And if we would have won that game, who knows? Right. So anyways, but he looked great. He was not the issue. He was the issue in games 1 and 2. He was not healthy yet. Again, he was back and forth, but he looked great in the end. So
he was spectacular. There. I was very surprised at how well he played, considering how him
you couldn't. Injured. What we lacked, though, is you couldn't give him real minutes. You had to rest him because his knee would flare up. So he's giving you he's giving you like 25 minutes a game as opposed to like 40 minutes a game that you probably need from him. But you got him. Imagine if you had him.
Tatum at the 4.
The JB and JT. Yeah, Tatum at the 4. Just theoretically, that's what you call them, right? You play them two together. You got him. And if we can keep Al Horford coming off the bench, if you got Al Horford coming off the bench, that's a winning team. You got Little Williams coming off the bench, right? And I do think you have to start playing Pritchard. I think Pritchard has a role. Pritchard is definitely, if Steve Kerr can have a role, Pritchard can certainly have a role. You know what I'm saying? And it's like Pritchard to me is a better player than a Steve Kerr. He might not shoot as prolifically, but someday he could. Let's not forget too. He's like 22 or 23 or whatever he is.
Yeah, I think it's his size. His size is his only problem. Is that if Steph is a liability in some cases on defense, Pritchard's smaller than Steph. Steve Kerr's like 6'5". He was a big guard.
Yeah, see, okay, so Daz is referring, I think, here to when I said he's not an alpha or whatever. Like, yeah, he delivers kill shots because he's the greatest shooter of all time. Like, I don't even want to mention my name in the same breath as him, but I'm just saying, as someone who can get in a zone when I'm just shooting, right? Like, I can get in a zone where in my head, I'm saying it's impossible that I'm going to miss. Like, I get in that zone when I'm shooting sometimes, right? Like, I've hit 57 straight free throws, right? Like, I've hit 24 straight 3-pointers, right? Like, I can shoot, right? Obviously, I couldn't even play in the NBA, right? I couldn't even play in D1, let alone probably couldn't play in D2, right? Let's keep it real. I probably could play a role in the D3 team, but here's the thing, right? I'm just saying, as someone who's in a shooting zone, right? Shooting really well is a state of mind, and it's being open, right? You got to be open. And so Steph was not open in game 6. He wasn't 0 for 9 because he was having a bad day. People are like, oh, he's missing a barn. He's missing a barn because he's pressing after the fact that they covered him like a wet towel. And they were like, you are not doing that again to us. And they were playing that silly drop coverage stuff, which I have no idea why they did that. And they were like, we're going to hold everyone else in check. And meanwhile, Steph people are lauding him as like one of the all-time great games, right? And it's like, dude, literally no one covered the greatest freaking shooter of all time. And he scored 43 points, which is exactly what he was supposed to do.
Exactly.
What I'm saying is Steph is a happy player. Steph is not I know he's a killer with his shot, right? But honestly, like my boy Ray Allen is more of a killer on the court than a Steph Curry. Like he wants to kill you. Steph wants to kill you too, but Steph won't kill you and smile. He'd be like, hey, Steph's gonna pass. Steph doesn't have to take the shot. But when Steph gets rolling, yeah, I'm just saying he's not your prototypical. Let's be real. He's not your prototypical alpha, right? Jaylen Brown is more of the prototypical alpha, flush in your face, stick three, be like, oh, screaming. Steph Curry is that too. And the guy that's this is the thing. He's going to scream at you in the locker room and put you in your place. For the Celtics, that's Marcus Smart. For Golden State, that's Draymond. Yep. Steph, because of his eliteness, has to play that role, but he's an alpha minus. Let's be real. Jason Tatum is an alpha minus. Might even be a B plus in terms of like when talking about alpha. He's a nice dude who's going to be like, hey, he's going to go talk to the concierge in the hotel. Go, hey, how you doing? Having a great day, right? He's going to shake the hands and kiss the babies and like. Not saying that some other people do that, but the Jordans and the LeBrons and the Kobes and the Shaqs, they're murderers. Yeah. They would punch you and they would steal your lunch money, right? They would bully you. Like that's none of those people, you know. That's all I'm saying. I'm not taking anything away from Steph. Look, Ray Allen is my favorite player of all time. Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time. Like there you go, right? Ray Allen.
So where are you ranking Steph Curry at? Because there was a lot of discussion. Me and my son, you know, I documented.
I'd say 8
discussions he and I've been having.
8, somewhere between 8 and 10.
8 all time.
8 to 10 all time. Yeah, I would say 8 to 10. I'd say he earned that with this series. Previously, I probably would have said like 10 to 12. Because here's the thing, right? Basketball, at the end of the day, is about shooting. He's the greatest shooter of all time. The greatest shooter of all time in a game that's fundamentally shooting has to be in the top 10, especially when you got 4 chips now. You had 3. The silly crap about like, oh, you didn't have an MVP. Who cares, bro? He got asked that last night. They were like, hey, now he's like, why'd you start with that question? Talk about these 4 chips I got. You know what I'm saying? It's like real winners care about winning, right? Yeah, they want an MVP trophy too, but like not as much as they dreamed as little kids winning that trophy. You know, you don't go, oh, and I want to be the MVP of the. I mean, who says that? I guess the alphas do, but you know what I'm saying? It's like
saying that's not Steph. Yeah, that's not Steph.
Yeah.
He got it.
Paul Pierce is an alpha. Paul Pierce won that. Yeah, Paul Pierce won that trophy. He's an alpha. Paul Pierce wanted that trophy. He eating that, just smoking a cigar at the trophy. Paul Pierce is that dude. You know what I mean? He's not as alpha as Kevin Garnett. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole different level.
He's a dog.
Kevin Garnett may be the definition of alpha, and he's not the most physically imposing human being. I mean, granted, he's 6'11", but I'm saying he's a like skinny dude. It's like not somebody you're gonna like fear in a street fight if you had some of the other dudes in the NBA, right? And but Kevin Garnett is not gonna back down to anybody, any situation. It's your Marcus Smart's the same way, yo. They that's all I'm saying. To me, that's overrated, anyways. I'm just saying that just to clarify what I was defining. And no, Tree, I do not believe the game was fixed in any way. No, the game was not fixed.
Yeah, I'm with you, man. I'm definitely proud, man, to see what the Celtics were able to produce with such young talent, man. That was definitely an overachievement. I would be happy if I'm a Boston fan. I'm happy with how they ended their shows a lot. They were lucky to be there. They could have easily lost any one of those. They were 1 game away from losing 2 series.
I was just saying, when I'm sitting on my couch in January watching them, I was like, this is the Celtics we've been waiting for, and we all knew it was there. I was saying early when we were doing this show, people were like, yo, what is it you want to trade in the South? In like December when they were flailing all over the place, I was like, I wouldn't change a thing. Be patient. You got Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, and once we got Al back, it was like, oh my gosh, like we got Al back on the team now too. It's like, you know, I didn't think Al would play quite the role he did, but Al, what I loved about Al was he tempered the Jason Tatums. The early Jason Tatum, the young Jason Tatum, the 21-year-old Jason Tatum shot too much and passed too little. You weren't hearing the criticisms you heard right now of like, yo, he's turning the ball up, because when you got nothing else, when your bench is doing nothing, I'm not trying to make excuses for them. The turnovers were horrendous, right?
Yeah.
But here is what I would say to Marcus Smart. Let's say to Marcus Smart. There's video footage before even last night, compilations of Marcus Smart turnovers. I'm screaming at the TV, Marcus Smart, what makes you think you can throw that lackadaisical pass from half court and it's going to work? What are you doing? This is the playoffs, bro. Like, at least Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum, like, some of them are due to ineptitude, right? It's like, dude, you can't go spinning through the lane and dribble in and do it. You're going to lose the ball, right?
Right.
It's different than, and some of the passes, at least they're trying to throw a pass when they go in and they're covered and they're throwing the pass. I'm not saying that's great, but it's not decision making from half freaking court. You're trying to throw a lob in the playoffs when you have a tremendous amount of turnovers and you're like, oh, I'm just going to throw another one. Marcus Smart turnovers were horrendous to me, and it's something that he's done a lot during the season and has got away with it. It's like, I'm going to throw half court lobs. I'm going to throw backwards, no look dimes. Like, it's like, come on, bro. What are you doing? Like, it's the playoffs. And to me, that looked young to me. And it's like the person who seemed to play with the most urgency was Robert Williams. Robert Williams is like, not in my house, not in my watch. I'm taking every possession seriously. You ain't seeing him shoot from 3-point land when he ain't open. You know what I'm saying? You ain't seen that. That dude has a nice 10-footer. He barely ever shoots it.
He
knows his role.
Al Horford was balling, man. I just was surprised at how well he played at that age, and he looked good, man. Like, even last night, he was consistent. He was hitting open shots. He was rebounding.
And I feel like only Jason Tatum passes to that dude. It's like Jason Tatum makes so many passes to Al Horford from, like, you know, the corner or whatever. Jason Tatum looked for Al Horford, and actually, I think it was one of the bright spots was his passing when they were in bounds. He was really making the reads that he needed to make. So that was one silver lining, and Al delivered on those. Al was like, yep, I'm playing for real. I'm hitting those shots. Yeah, so you're right. Like, in the games Al showed, and the games Al didn't show up, it's like he didn't get the ball. You know what I'm saying? It was like Al, and there was a lot of minutes he was sitting to in people of favor. You know, all those minutes, if we could have got them back instead of going to the other Williams, it would have been like, you know, retrospect.
Yeah, and your bench 2020 disappeared, man. That guy
disappeared.
Derek White, he played exceptional in that series before that. He was probably one of the reasons why you guys ended up winning that series.
Absolutely.
How well he played down the stretch for you guys. And it was just, it's just one of those situations where you just got to take what you can get, man. And he did well. I didn't really see him. I mean, we all knew he wasn't the kind of player that can carry that throughout an entire playoff run.
No, but he had a nice playoffs until the championship. Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you get, you know, if he can come, like, a lot of times he's coming in for Tatum, and it's like, if he fills in for Tatum and comes in and does well and can score some points, it's like that gives Tatum a little more rest too. You know, he doesn't have to play 43 minutes a game or whatever, you know, 40 plus every single game.
Every single game.
Taxing.
Him and that man, they wearing that young man now. Every time I do 44 minutes,
I was like, yo, he looked like he aged 2 years in the last 3 games, you know? And people are like, yo, he's just not an alpha. It's like, come on, bro. It's like, people are human. You know what I'm saying? Go play down your local gym. Go play every day at your local gym for an hour, right? You're going to be a day you're going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to the gym today. You know what I'm saying? But even when they're not playing, they're going to the gym. They're playing. An NBA practice is probably more competitive than any game you ever played in your life. You know
ever played in your life. Yeah, absolutely.
But, yeah. So, yeah, it was a great season. Terrible ending. Only terrible because we're Boston fans. And, well, you know what I'm saying? In Boston, it's you saw the other day, I don't know if you watched Mad Dog and what's his name? He had a top 5 best sports cities. And Stephen A. Smith is on there with him. And his first one was like, it was something, it was like, I can't remember. It was something silly. It was like Cleveland, let's say, right? And then the next one was like, it was like Tampa Bay or something. Yeah, I know they're in the hockey finals, whatever. But it was these like team, and he's like, what? And Stephen A. Smith, New York dude, right? He's like, bro, everyone in the world knows it's Boston. He's like, what are you talking about? And he goes, no, Boston doesn't watch any other team. That's true. But Boston fans watch Boston sports only. If Boston's not in it, they're not watching the championship, right? There's like 8 people in Boston that would have watched the championship if it would have been, you know, New Jersey or Milwaukee playing Steph, you know. Absolutely, all day long, right? There's very few. It's got to be a real fan of the sport, right? And in Boston,
Right.
the casual fan dominates, and they take their sports very seriously when it's Boston sports.
When
So
it's
that was the
Boston
point he was
sports.
making. But he didn't have them anywhere in the top 5. And he's like, he goes, how can you not count a fervent a fan base with such fervor? And he goes, that's not what I'm rating. I'm not rating fervor. And he's like, well, then you can't say best sports city if you don't care about tenacious fans who are willing to live and die for their team. He's like, that's what everyone wants, you know?
Yeah,
He's like,
that's literally the definition of a fan, man. Like,
right.
A fanatic. Like,
but here's what's terrible. The flip side of that is that we do this. I've been listening to Boston radio all day long, right? I was driving in my car. I listen to a lot of ESPN too, but I listen to Boston sports radio all the time. And so shout out to the sports fans, shout out to EEI. But anyways, listening to them shows, you hear the same old homers every day who are never gonna. But it's not in Boston DNA to go, hey, great series. Too bad we didn't win the end. No, it's always start with the gloom and doom. Always. Boston always starts with the gloom and doom. It's like, show me the money. It's the biggest show me the money teams ever. Because forever we sucked in every sport. That's what people love to say. Oh, Boston's wonderful. They talk about 8 million years ago when the Celtics were like, like the powerhouse in like the 40s. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's like that stuff almost.
60s.
Yeah, it's like, come on, bro. It's like in the modern era. Let's even define modern as not so modern, right? Let's say whatever the internet was developed, like late 80s. Yeah, let's say all right, let's say 80s in general, right? We'll call 80s modern. 80s on, right? Yes, Boston has been relatively relevant, but it was in basketball when they won 3 championships in the 80s, right? The Red Sox got to the championship in 86 against the Mets, and it was one of the most devastating series ever. That was when Bill Buckner had the ball go through his legs, and everyone thought the Red Sox were going to win. They blew that. Yeah. Red Sox have been waiting forever, right? So then they don't get another shot to like 10 plus more years or whatever. The Patriots are irrelevant.
They had a good run. If it hadn't been for the Yankees changing baseball and the way they were signing free agents and signing out big contracts, Boston, right, that Pedro Martinez era could have got a couple.
Well, that's what I was going to say. When that era came in, yes, right? Like when Pedro era came, we're talking late 90s, mid to late 90s. It was until the Red Sox. Right. But that's mid to late 90s. And then into the 2000s when the Red Sox become a powerhouse again, right? And then the Celtics fall off until 2008 when they make the Ray Allen, Kevin Garnett trade, right? And they got there a couple times, but it was like they weren't relevant until that team came, right? And the Patriots were the worst team in pro football forever until when Tom Brady came in 2000, 2001, whatever it was. And yeah, then they go on a historic run, much like the one Golden State is on for basketball. So yeah, the Celtics are relevant. The Red Sox are usually relevant these days. The Patriots are usually relevant. Obviously, post-Tom, it's been a little tougher, but they're going to get back there again. The Bruins even, pulled in a championship, right? But it's like, until like the Bobby Orr days for the Bruins, no one was talking about the Bruins. Were always going to let you down. The Bruins would always let you down. The Red Sox would always let you down. And post the Celtics dynasty there in the 80s, the Celtics were pretty much not really relevant until 2008. So you have this cloud over Boston all the time. And now, because we're always there in every sport now, it seems like, post, late 90s and so forth. From the late 90s into now, it feels like Boston's always has a team there, right? But that took forever. We were the worst. And so every sports fan is like, show me the money, because you're not going to let me down again. You're not going to let me down. It's like count your money before you have it. It's like, show me the money. So the Boston fans, we're going to be like, you know what? They suck. They suck. Paul Pierce, the loser. But you know what I mean? And then he wins. Paul Pierce, the greatest thing ever. Same thing with Tatum. Tatum sucks. He's not a leader. He's never going to be the man. And then, he'll go change his diet, do whatever he has to do, bulk up another 5 pounds, learn to dribble his left hand better, because that's his biggest weakness. He doesn't finish with his left. And then, people are like, oh my gosh, he's so amazing. I never saw it coming. It's like, bro, he was the best player in the championship series like 3 years ago when he was the youngest dude on the team. It was like you saw it coming. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. But he shoots too much for me, though. I just think he has to be a little more physical and get to the basket. And to me, but that's kind of really always been his game, and so that's the next level for him. The next step would be, I mean, the fact that we're having this discussion is just, for me, just this further validates the way I felt. It was like his game is still developing. Like, he always has been able to shoot. I don't really see where his game's changed since he first got it.
No,
he just become. You know what I'm
he,
saying? He still has that
better
next level.
handle. He has better one-on-one handle than he did when he first came in. He already had good handle when he came in, but he has better one-on-one moves. And you know what's funny? He didn't go to a lot of those moves. He was doing the same old. I'm going to spin because there's too much pressure on me. I'm going to spin, show you my back. I'm going to pass out, and go up weakly and hope I draw the foul kind of like mentality. I was like, I bet that's what you do when you're taxed. That's what you do.
What else can you do, man? Ain't a whole lot in the tank, bro.
Yeah. So here's my prediction. What you see next year for Jaylen Brown takes another. I mean, you can only take baby steps at this point. He's so far along, right? Jaylen Brown makes the All-Star team next year. Jason Tatum obviously makes the All-Star team next year. But here's what I would like to see from Tatum. I'd like to see Tatum take a step back on the scoring and just keep increasing the assists and actually increase the rebounds. I think there's no reason why Jason Tatum had a great rebounding year anyways, but there's no reason Jason Tatum can't be an 8 rebound plus guy. He can't be a 7 assist guy. I know that's a big number, but he can be a 7 assist guy. I'd like to see him be 25, 8, and 7, yo. Like, he don't need to be 28 points a game. He's going to. I mean, he's going to, but it's like he'll probably be so mad he's probably going to go for 30 and probably be a 34 and 5 guy. And everyone will say he's the greatest thing since sliced bread because his numbers are higher. But it's like I'd rather see him for the sake of the team be 25, 8, and 7 or 25, 7, and 6 or something like that with low turnovers, high assists, better rebounds, and more decision making in his shots. And if you have a better point guard, that should happen anyways.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the key. I would say because of the complex of the new NBA and the way championship teams are now being built, super teams, and the formation of multiple all-stars and stuff like that. I don't think Tatum can afford to not be a 30-point guy.
Yeah,
if he's not, I don't see where Boston gets their other points from.
I agree.
Brown can be that guy too. But you would
Brown will be 20 if he's 30.
Right. But you need the way the NBA set up now that you need 2 25 guys.
Yep. I mean, 30 and 20 get you the same amount of points, but it's like you're right. You need. I would like to see Jaylen Brown score 23.5, Jason Tatum score 25.6, something like that, right?
Yeah.
And then have a point guard who comes in and gives you a solid 14 and 8 or 14 and 7 or whatever, And that's close to Marcus Smart, but not quite, And it's like Marcus Smart can give you the same production off the bench playing 30 minutes, and or like you said, starting and then having somebody who really comes in and plays well. And here's the thing. I would package up there's value in the other Williams, right? I think his value went down in the championship a little bit. And I think you could see that he's expendable on this team. Like, yeah, he had a nice corner jumper and plays nice D. And 3 and D is value in the NBA. So if you want to get a Malcolm Broderick, you're going to need to take probably White's salary. You're probably going to need to take Williams' salary. And you might need to give him Peyton Pritchard as well. And, that would probably get that deal done and maybe even some money and a pick, because
that's all.
Broderick's right. Broderick's not 19 and he's like a 19 and 7 guy. I mean, he was 20 the year before. He scored 20 points a game the year before. People you don't hear about him because the teams he's on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like when he was on Milwaukee, it was like, how do you get rid of him? When we were lucky he played against us when he was slightly injured and they still won, but it was like he was coming in and out. I'm like, how do you get rid of him? This dude is a monster. Plays great D, shoots well, passes well, doesn't turn the ball over. He's everything you want, but he's not flashy. So it's like,
I don't know. I asked the same question too, man. Apparently, Milwaukee figured it out and ended up winning the championship after making multiple moves like that. So I stopped questioning Milwaukee after that.
Yeah.
But with the acquisition, hypothetically speaking, they were able to acquire a Malcolm Brogdon. What do you do about your bench? Because now you're giving up pieces that's coming off of your bench. You solve one problem, but you create an even bigger problem with your bench. Well, how do you fix that?
Well, I think if Marcus Smart is on, I can still see Marcus Smart being on your bench and not starting, right? I can see Marcus Smart.
If Marcus Smart is not,
I think you still start Horford. Makes a lot of sense to me if Horford's still on the team. And then you could also start Smart whenever you want to start Smart. You know what I mean? But I'm just saying relying on Smart as your only option, I think isn't good enough. So let's say Smart's in there for the sake of discussion, just so we can name the top 5, right? Those are your top 5 players. You got off the bench, obviously you got Big Al. Big Al's coming off number 1. You lose the rest of those guys, you really don't have anybody else, because here's what's going to happen. They're not going to keep I just forgot his name. Tice. Tice is probably done.
Tice.
Right? They might keep White. You might not have to lose White in that, right? But you're gonna have to match salaries, right? So you're gonna lose Tice. You're gonna lose the other Williams. You're gonna lose Peyton Pritchard. You might even lose, and I would not like to give up on him yet, but Neeson, who couldn't hit a 3-pointer to save his life, even though he's probably the best 3-point shooter on the team. That's weird, right? Shot threes this year at 25%. And is the best 3-point shooter they have in practice, was the best 3-point shooter in all of college basketball, and can't hit it in game. Now, he plays spotty in games, doesn't get a lot of run. Those numbers are going to go up. Look at what happened with D. Williams. I mean, he couldn't hit a 3-point shot the entire season. Remember, he started, he was like 0 for 26 or something like that. And now he's like one of the better 3-point shooters in the league, right? Coming off the bench. I mean, shooting over 40%. So he's a 3-and-D guy, but you're going to have to lose him. So you're right. Let's say you keep any 2 or 3 of those people. So here's the Celtics have 9 players essentially right now, if you count Tice in that mix. They have 9 players, and Neeson borders on being number 10, right? So those are your players. The rest of the guys don't even count. They're between the D League and back and forth. Who knows? One of them might emerge. But I'm saying no one's worried about any of those other players. You go to Neeson on the team, it's that deep. So you go starting 5. Then you go, with the current mix, you go starting 5, and then your first guy off the bench is D. Williams. Your next guy off the bench is probably White. Then it's Pritchard. Then it's Tice. That gets you to 9. Number 10 is Neeson. Okay. So, and Neeson could have been number 8 somewhere during the season at one point, but he was just shooting so poorly. Those are your 10 guys on the team. You can lose any 3 of those guys in trades, and you probably have to. Yeah, and you can take, and teams are going to want Williams. Teams are probably going to want Pritchard, because Pritchard still has an amazing upside. I don't think he's ever going to be an all-star in the league, but he could be somebody who gets you 12 points off the bench and can run. He's got handle all day. I mean, let's not sleep. Yeah, he's undersized, right? But there's plenty of undersized guards in this league in this day and age who can shoot the 3. And he's not. People were overdoing it with saying how much of a liability he is on defense. He's a solid defensive player. He's just undersized. It's not like, like Steph Curry has gotten better on defense, right? He's an undersized, smaller guy. But guess what? He's been in the gym. He's bulked up, if you haven't noticed, and he works harder on defense. So he's not the biggest liability in the world, but the Celtics were sure picking on him early in the series, and then they smartened up and they worked it out, right? But Pritchard, what I'm saying is Pritchard has value. He's a poor man Steph right now. You know what I'm saying? There's value in the kind of game that he has. Yeah, he's shorter. Yeah, he's weaker. He's obviously no one's as good of a shooter as Dude, but he's got the potential to be that kind of shooter in that discussion, of somebody who's like lights out, comes in, boom, and plays solid D and has great handle. Steph Steph has great handle, but he's not a true point guard. You know what I'm saying? So it's like Pritchard's a true point guard who can shoot lights out. There's value there. So I'm saying a team would take a Pritchard. They'd probably take a White. They would take a Williams. They don't care about a Tice. That might be for salary consideration, but that's not the worst thing in the world to tell your team that, hey, did you watch the East Coast Finals? Yeah, you know that team. Yeah, we just got 4 of their guys, and but I don't know. And then you need a bunch of other role players. But at that point, I'd be like, who cares? Because you have the best starting 5 in basketball. You probably have the best starting 7 in basketball, if that's the case.
I would say also too that I would think Boston would have a draft pick coming next year with some of the moves they made when they sent Kyrie away.
Nah, they got nothing left. They pretty much expended it. They might have a pick in the shoot. They have a couple guys stashed over in Europe as well. Okay. I don't think they have a high pick left. They might have one that's in the top first round.
Discounted though, man. Golden State still has the pedigree to be, and this is the scary part. One of their best young talent did not play all season long.
That's right.
Which was their one
Kuminga's?
weakness which was James Wiseman, which was one of the weaknesses that they
Oh,
lacked was that they didn't have any size and athleticism at the 5.
What's that guy's name? How do you say his name?
Kuminga. He's
Yeah.
developing, and that was the
I never
other
know
thing
if there's an
about
S
that I
on the end or
noticed
not.
about Steve Kerr, about how he played. You know, he played everyone. I mean, that last series, he played a guy that I didn't even know was even on the team, and he gave Steph like a 9-minute breather last series that completely changed, you know, the complexion of how they played. But that's coaching too, though. You know, that's coaching, and overall, having a coach with that kind of experience, man, he's been coaching 8 years, and he's been to 6 championships. He's won 3 of them, 4 of them.
Yeah.
So, like, that's a lot of experience for him. You can tell by some of the decisions he's made throughout the playoffs where you're like, why is he putting this dude in the game? And it's kind of, like you said, preserved because he know how long the haul is. And it's kind of preserved, you know, his guys, you know, to have the energy. And he was playing these end-of-the-bench guys, man.
He was playing Iguodala, and I was
here.
like, and he looked okay, you know?
Yep.
So
you
play people in spots. Yeah, it can work. There's no reason both those teams can't be back. I mean, I'm really interested to see what happens with New Orleans. You know, I think that could be just an interesting dynamic.
They got a good team, man. They got a lot of good young talent, man, especially with a healthy Zion, man. They're deep.
I mean, I have no reason to believe that if he's back at full strength, that could give a lot of team a run for their money.
I see them as a good regular season team, but again, just like Boston, it would just take some time for them to develop to be a playoff threat.
Right.
Phoenix, I don't think you can discount Phoenix. I still
you can't.
better. You still got Milwaukee coming back, you know, just as strong. I am interested in seeing what teams are going to emerge, you know, that hadn't been. I'm interested in seeing what Chicago's going to do. They need to break that up. I told my son 2 months ago that Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell is not going to be able to play together. That's just not a championship pedigree.
Yeah, I agree.
And so
Donovan Mitchell, I mean, that could be somebody who gets shipped and be a lot of contenders out for the Donovan Mitchell game.
Yeah, somebody's getting.
I mean, he's unhappy. I mean, he's made it public. So
somebody's getting shipped. Somebody's getting shipped.
Donovan Mitchell would look in a Celts uniform, but it wouldn't work. I don't think Donovan Mitchell would work on this team, but. I mean, it worked.
You would need more of him. You know, you need a point guard.
Right, you need a point guard. That's the only thing we need. There's no the center's there, the wings are there, right? It's like the really glaring
there.
Everything's there. It's just you don't even need the point guard. It would be a luxury. The Celtics will still rival for contention for the East Coast Championship without another point guard, right? Like they could have better play from Pritchard, White playing a full year, and that a little bit of platooning and making sure Smart's not playing ridiculous numbers and, you know, stressing ball control, they're going to be just fine. But if they wanted to make that move and really wanted to elevate JB and JT's game, you get a real point guard throwing the ball to them, because most teams that have wings like that have an amazing point guard. I mean, that's what you do when you have great wings. You know, you're like, I need somebody who can facilitate, not somebody who can shoot. You know, not somebody who can just play D. You want someone who's going to give them the rock, you know. And granted, the game has changed a lot, and there's not a lot of those guards out there right now. It's not a guard-heavy league in terms of elite point guards right now. But, you know, a few years ago, that's all we were talking about. It's like, but it's like there's been a little reemergence of the wing player. The wing player who can shoot now is what you're looking for, right? Because it used to be you come in and you take it to the rack. That's what a wing player did. Now you take it in and you kick to 3. And you tell your wings to run over to the corner, right? And that's what you do, you know. And if your wings can pass, you know, and your wings can, you know, make pass, great. But if your wings can catch a pass or dribble, and that's the thing, Tatum and to an extent Brown, they can dribble to get open to shoot the 3. You know, Brown is a little bit more of a spot up 3 shooter. He doesn't really like run out to 3. Like Tatum's moving and catching. Tatum's fine off the ball or on the ball, whatever. But if you had a point guard facilitating, Jaylen Brown game is going to get better too.
Yeah,
because he doesn't really create his own 3. You know.
Yep, he's aggressive. So I like that he's a lot more aggressive than Tatum.
Yes, he'll take it right to the rack.
Actually, very complimentary. It hurts Tatum as an individual ball player. You just pull him out. And put him on display and says, you know, where his game needs to improve is obviously him being aggressive. It's obviously him being more like Jaylen Brown. But you put the two of them together, you got the perfect pair.
You do, yeah. No, that's definitely not a spot that they need to improve. They don't need to improve at the center position either. They have the perfect center, and they're gonna win. The currently constituted, if they were constituted this way for the next 3 years, they'd be 50 plus every year. There's no doubt. Which is going to be good enough to get you into the second round minimum, probably every one of those years, just because of their defense and the way they shoot. But if they want to win that chip, I think there's another piece they got to move, and I would lobby for Brogdon. That would be my move. Whatever you got to do. Who cares about the bench? If you had that starting five, are you kidding me? That's starting five, and then throw Al on the bench, and if you could keep like one of those other players, whether it's White, whether it's Williams, maybe you. I think Neeson is don't sleep on Neeson's a beast on defense.
Your boy IT on a 10-day contract, man.
Yeah, that's it. That's all we need. We need IT on a 10-day contract. Bring him in. Hey, IT wouldn't be the worst thing on this team. I'm telling you, a little IT in the playoffs would have actually went a long way. But coming, he would have came in. He wouldn't have had to wait for someone. That dude's an alpha, and he's 5 feet.
5 foot nothing, man. He's a dog, man. Hey, yeah. I'm excited.
I think he might have himself a starting position next year. I mean, he's at least a bench position, but he's I mean, you got Scary Terry starting in front of him, but I don't know if you can win a chip with Scary Terry as your starting point guard. He's a nice player, but I don't know if you.
Rozier?
Yeah.
Nah.
I don't think you win the chip with him starting.
No, I agree. I agree with you. And then he's like he's not he's kind of like an off-ball guard as well, but he's not really.
Yeah, like he's Marcus Smart with no defense.
Right, with no defense.
Marcus Smart with no defense and a better three.
To me, at best, Rozier shouldn't be anybody's starting point guard. He's more. I think he's more effective coming off the bench as your 6th man or something like that. If he's your 6th man, you probably got a pretty good team.
Right. If the funny thing about all this stuff I'm saying about Smart, like, don't get me wrong, I love Smart. Like, Smart, I love him. He can do wrong, but I love him. And it's like, here's why. Relentless, makes winning plays, changes the game. When games are out of reach, you put Smart in, and Smart will go do some ridiculous stuff and turns the whole game around, right? You can't find those kind of players. You can't grow them, you can't manufacture them. But what you can do is a player that's like that, you can massage it a little bit because he is a smart player. His name is true. He's going to watch film. He's going to say, you know what? I'm making some ridiculous bonehead passes. I need to calm it down and play more solid. Like Marcus Smart, more solid is Malcolm Brogdon. He's a very similar player to Malcolm Brogdon, except Malcolm Brogdon is more conservative. And you need that on a team that has elite wings and an elite center who you have some great chemistry with, you pass with. So if you just watch the film, don't go crazy. Just here's what we're asking you to do. Not make schoolyard basketball plays in the middle of the game, right? Throw a lob up to Rob every now and then. That's high percentage, even though it always looks difficult. But we just don't need you throwing lobs from half court to the wings while they're cutting. You know what I'm saying? And it's contagious because that's exactly what Smart and Tatum do. I mean, Tatum and Brown do. They play the same way he does. They come down and they're like, oh, I'm going to make this spinning reverse. It's like the level of difficulty on a Tatum play. The level of difficulty on a Tatum play is ridiculous. The problem is he does it all year, and you're like, yo, he can make that. Like, yeah, you can, but it's a little different in the playoffs. You know what I'm saying? Especially when you're spent, But, you know what I'm saying? It's just a little crazy. So, anyway.
Yeah. It was a good day. It was a good series, man. Like I said, I'm excited to see those guys continuously develop. So in a couple of weeks, man, I'm guessing I might get to see you, man.
That's actually right.
A flight situation work out.
I didn't book it because I didn't hear the answer back from my man LD. I know he tried to call me and I hit him back and I missed him, but I just wasn't sure how early we need to be there. I just don't know what else I can do. You know what I'm saying? Outside of come the night before, and I don't actually have the hotel info on me. I don't think. I think he sent it, but I don't have it on me. You disappeared.
Yeah, bro. We can do what we did the last time too, though.
Yeah, exactly. But what's the name of the place?
Do
we know it?
Yeah, I do. It's the.
And is this just the place where the thing is at?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right.
They send out Intercontinental. They did send out links out as well. He sent it too.
But then what about him? Is there anyone else? Oh yeah, Jay's coming too.
I think so. I think he set it up to where, you know, a few people, pretty much anybody that's close or near, you know, on the Freedom Corner brand side, because that's how the
So
registration
if you
is.
got a room with him, yeah, you and I get a room, we do whatever. And I
Yeah.
don't know what time the performances are. I don't remember that stuff. But for anybody
It says
listening
it's
to our private
scheduled.
conversation, we're talking about a music conference we're doing. We mentioned before down in New Orleans in July. Yep.
Typical ProQuo stuff, man. Just regular conversation. People just happen to be listening, man.
That's it.
First show, first part is Thursday at 6:20.
6:20. What's the time difference down there again?
We're central,
Is there
so
any?
we're hour difference.
New Orleans is central as well.
Yeah,
New Orleans is central. Okay, all right, cool. So 6:20 their time. All right, cool. So the flight I think I was taking, I'd get there like 3ish. So I could probably make that.
Yeah, you definitely. Yeah, that's plenty of time.
So I'll just go ahead and book that.
Yep, Intercontinental is the spot where the conference is being held. So I like the idea of being at that particular spot because they got a lot of other stuff going on. There's probably a lot of mingling and, you know, A&R people, stuff like that around. And,
yeah. Well, if you want to do that, I mean, tell me what it is, and we can do what we did before,
right.
or vice versa. Like you set that up, and I do it, and then I'll do the flight or whatever. Well, actually, you're not doing a flight, so you are, but you know, it's always a flight away. But it's
always a flight away, brother.
How far is that from you? How far is that if you weren't flying?
To me, it's just like a 2.5, 3 hour drive.
Yeah, I mean I'd drive it if I was doing.
I'm driving. Yeah, I'm definitely driving.
Oh, okay, you're driving.
Yeah, I'm definitely driving, man. I've never flown to New Orleans from here.
I was actually, if I had a little more time, I was actually considering a train to Atlanta and a flight from there. But I don't have the time. I'm doing Columbus next week.
Okay, the Ohio.
I'm actually doing a radio interview while I'm out there too for the Yo That's Pro, which is number 6 right now.
That's pro.
Yeah. So that should be fun. Get to do one performance as well, and this is really what it is. We're actually at a quantum conference with all my quantum friends, so it should be fun. Some of these people that I've met, some of them I haven't. Some of them I met when I did the performance in Chicago because some of them are out there. But yeah, looking forward to that, and then do that, and yeah. And look for Dive In It, hitting the radio promotion soon as well. We're gonna be trying to do some
favorites, bro.
Fee and I are also talking about radio promotion for Back in the Days, the ski joint, which is getting lots of love in Clubhouse from my man DJ Ice Mike. He played that in there. I hit him with it, and he was like, "Yo, can I play it?" I was like, "Yeah, play it." He played it. The room went nuts for the Back in the Days track. They were requesting it again after the first day we played it. They played it again. I got Fee to hear a clip of it. And Ice Mike, shout out to my man Ice Mike. He's a great dude. He was spinning. He's like, "Bro, this is cash money." He's like, "You gotta put this out like ASAP." I'm like, "I know." I'm telling my man Fee, we gotta do it too. I'm like, "It's out, but we're not really promoting it right now." And we're gonna work on doing that. We might do something with LD with that too, on the back end. Even though we already have it out, he was telling me some stuff we can do through the label. So we're gonna see how that works and bring Fee into the fold, I think. But we'll see. We'll see. Very summary stuff. Yep. And then I'm looking to speaking of radio promo, for the fall, coming up towards the fall, actually doing a radio push for the Freedom Corner song, a real push for that song, and as well as another one I got in the cut. Heard some new Quo tracks, which are really banging. Shout out to Quo. Shout out to
my
Quo
brother, man.
Shout out to Quo on the big condo move too. Congratulations on the closing on the condo, man. That's big news. And shout out to Quo's brother Josh Silva, who just became a postmaster, the general, which is big. That's big. Postmaster is big. For anyone in the U.S. mail, like some of their family is. So they are a male family, you know. And that's big.
Speaking of mail, bro, he's definitely gonna be carrying that bag.
Carrying that bag for real, yeah, literally and figuratively.
Literally and figuratively.
Yeah. It's funny, man. I was trying to put my finger on like I was listening to the new track he sent me, and and a couple others that he sent too over some older beats we were doing some stuff with, and it's trying to put my finger on the Quo style is like when I try to compare him to another MC that's out. There are none, right? There's no one out that you can like compare him to, right? But he's influenced. Mobb Deep obviously is an influence, right? But he does it in such a cool way that like
man.
Mobb Deep doesn't put the attention to detail in, like Mobb Deep says what they got to say, and they say it cool, and they're dope, and they're classic, and you can't say anything.
But they're a little
about
aggressive.
them, right? Like,
he's a lot more.
He's
a lot more finesse.
It.
Yeah.
He's criminal smooth with it. Yeah, it's like, and it's like, as I've always said, right? Like whether it's the newest song he's working on, or some ones that we got in the cut that people ain't heard yet, or ones on the album or whatever. This iteration of him is the best way I can say it is like, I don't even know what he's saying until I read the lyrics. And sometimes I read the lyrics and I still don't know. And I'll play it back and I'll go, it's like a genius of the way you say things that don't commonly go together, right? It's like if he was going to say, he wouldn't say, hey, I'm going to read the book and then turn on the TV. He would say like, projections from the novel have me looking at the scope, It's exactly. And I'm like, what does that mean? And he's like, well, I'm talking about reading the book and watching the TV. And I'm like, oh, of course you are. So like when he narrates it to you, that's why we do this little thing, the break it down thing. It's like, because once he breaks it down, you like realize all the thought. It's what you think is going into it, but on surface level, you can't really make heads or tails exactly be seen. You have a vague idea, right? So that's why I'm always talking about he's in the ether. Like he's like, I come in with a little bit more precision. I'm like, yo, this is what I'm talking about. I might use a word here or there that's like more vague, but I'll use vague, precision, but he's like vague, precision, vague, precision. Yeah. And you're like, I don't know what to make of it, but it sounds hella dope. And then he tells you, and you're like, he's old school authentic with it. In other words, he will not write something that doesn't make sense. So he has a rationale and meaning for everything, So you go through it and you're like, yo, that's how it does. So you can't wait to get the interpolation. That's what I call it from him. And it's like, not many people do, almost like Griselda in a way without the crazy edginess.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
It's like the craziness. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like Griselda without the craziness, or Mobb Deep with a little bit more depth. You know what I'm saying? It's like, that's a nice zone to sit in, bro. It's a nice zone. So
yeah, bro, I'm excited, man, about hearing definitely some new ProQuo, man.
Yes, sir. Speaking of the thing too, we're gonna have to do this too. I'm gonna make a couple edits. I'm gonna make the Freedom Corner edit with the no quo there. And so might make the He Prays edit with no quo there on the instrumental. And I think I'm gonna make a Dive in It one that has them in it. But in a different amalgamation. Like I think what's going to do is it's going to start with Hendo, and because I'm there, it'll go to me, and then you might hear Hendo, and then you'll hear Jay as we go out for the ending, and I'll just like shout them out or whatever, and a special instrumental version that has them on it, so that because I think I want to rock the Dive in It to talk about that song as it comes out, and then of course that's Pro and whatever. So, but I'm that's just in my little space. Other than that, I'm just there to soak it all in,
Soak it all in, brother, man. I got to get on my Grizzly, man. I've been on a musical sabbatical. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago though, man. It's the JOB, but
that's right.
Me and L talked.
My hair's on a sabbatical. Look,
it's on his way back, man.
It's way high right now. It's just matted down as I was wearing the hat, but it's not high on the sides. But it's it's gonna be getting my
hey, man, you gotta keep the hair, man.
I'm telling you, it's there, man.
Yeah, man. So I'm looking forward to getting back.
While it's still relatively dark. Because as the years go on, it's gonna get a little bit more salt and pepper each year. You know what I'm saying? Right now, it's pretty good. You know what I'm saying? Like
man.
It's a solid color right now. But it's getting more and more. I'm like every day. I'm like, ooh, is that looks a little less shade there on the hair. Look at a little.
I'm already completely
salt and peppery. Gray. Are you? I don't think you're completely gray, bro.
Bro, you have no idea.
Well, you doing something because I ain't seeing completely gray.
Bro, you have no idea, man. I'm about to go spray it right now, bro.
Oh, I say I don't got ain't no spray.
Nah, bro.
Oh.
I got my first gray at 21.
Oh yeah, I had some early. My mom did too, like real early, like she was just a kid. My mother like gray when she was a kid. So my grandmother's hair was like white when she was like 50. It was like white. It's like whoa. So it's in the genes sometimes, and other times it's not. Sometimes we bring it on ourselves with our jobs. You know what I mean?
With our job. You
know what I mean? You know what I mean, sir? Yeah.
Yes,
you know what I mean? Because we trying to make that Howard bank. You know what I'm saying? We trying to make that bank, man. We trying to make that bank.
It don't even be worth it, bro. It don't even be worth it. But the best is yet to come. I'm excited. I'm in the midst of some negotiations. And some terms, man. I may do something real drastic this year, bro. I can feel it. And
you'll be first. Open his own company. He's gonna open his own company. I feel it coming. He's gonna open a restaurant. He's gonna open a chain. Am I blowing it? Am I anywhere close?
You're always close, man. You always just one flight away, bro. Your ideas.
I'm one flight away. He's gonna open a church with food. Oh, a rapping church with food.
I'd give away food, man. I'd give it away.
That's how my father-in-law is too. He's like saying he has a whole like almost like farm, and he like grows food. I'm like, yo, you would sell this? He's like, nah, I give it away. Give it to people at church. I'm like, you are a good man.
I would too, man. I'd give it away. It just depends on what I'm doing, man. But I do have some food concept ideas that I've been
give it away.
Yeah. Actually, man, I went. I had an MRI today, and as I was sitting in this MRI machine, man, the machine makes so much noise, bro. But all I can hear was rhythm in it, man. So I was like writing music in my head.
Really?
It's
MRI
crazy,
sounds pretty serious. You all good over there?
I don't know, man. We'll see, man.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope for the best, man.
You
and
I both.
Serious. That sounds serious. I've never been in an MRI machine, so I don't even know. When I hear that, I'm like, I know.
I don't want to.
Yeah. It's a grind, huh?
Especially,
is it like magnetic resonance? I can never remember what MRI stands for. I should know.
Yeah,
I know
man. It's basically.
It's got some quantum in it too, by the way.
Scanning, yeah, exactly. It's a lot of quantum in it, man. Diagnostic imaging. But I don't know, man. I have had some complications, man. Recently, so I went ahead and got that done. My wife would not let me rest until I did anyway. So.
Got that knocked out. Tell her I said props to her. She's telling you the right advice.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So yeah, man, I feel something drastic coming on this year, and I'm here for it, man. I don't care how crazy it sounds or seems, man. When opportunity comes, man, I'm jumping. Yeah, we had some COVID in the fam, and so we had our bout of COVID here at the household, and I had to cancel. My wife had it the worst. My son, I was like low man on the totem pole. I think I kind of barely had it. Like I did the line thing. I was like, I never felt the thing, right? And my wife was like, you should probably do the test. And I was like, I did the test, and it was like the faintest line, right? And I was like, oh, I guess I have it. But she was like, you were the first one who was like going, because when I got back from the trip that I did, granted, I was talking a lot more than usual, I was rapping, doing all that kind of stuff, right? Take AC, was in the flight, felt super cold AC, right? When I was in there and I got off and I was like, and that happens to me all the time when I'm on flights. I get like AC cold, I call it. So I wasn't thinking anything of it. And my voice like went down like an octave for that whole trip. So I didn't think anything of it because I was like, fine. I didn't have any symptoms. I wasn't sneezing, wasn't coughing, any of that stuff. I didn't sneeze or cough. But then I had like a couple of days later, she was like, hey, you were coughing a couple of times at night. I was like, I didn't even hear it. So it was like one of those things, right? Meanwhile, everyone else in the house gets COVID. My son gets COVID. My wife gets COVID. And they always get stuff before me. So I'm like, oh, good. So I'm trying to, make sure they're good or whatever. And, I'm like, I finally tested like 5 days after them because we were just assuming I didn't have it. She wasn't. She was like, it's kind of like your wife. She's like, you need to take it. And then like, there was nothing on the line. Like I did the test. I was like, oh, I passed. And then like 15 minutes later, the thing had like the faint little line. I'm like, oh, I guess I have a little of it. She's like, you got a trace of it in you or something. You got it in there. So I was a little slackadaisical with that.
I had to cancel all my baseball games. Cancel. They were asking me to do basketball too. There's a 3-on-3 thing going on, and I
Okay.
haven't been able to do those. But I think maybe in a couple weeks I'll start picking up a little of the basketball when I don't have anything going on a Saturday afternoon if I'm in that position. And so yeah, that stuff has been good for me because baseball has been keeping me on my toes, pun intended. Keeping me in the gym. And that's all I've been doing, working on a little school stuff here and there, but that's really it, man. Just enjoying the summer.
That's what's up.
Got to keep the stress down, man. You got to do the same, bro.
I got to do much better, bro. I'm on vacation next week, man. So
yes, sir. Well, three of those days I know you'll be.
Yeah, I'm on vacation.
Oh no, I'm sorry. Next week is Columbus.
The week after that, then the week after that, yeah. Next week, you in Columbus. I'm in North Little Rock next week with the fam, summer trip.
Nice.
Yeah,
I've never been there.
It's actually, man. I mean, you're well traveled.
Never been to Arkansas.
You've been in all the. I've been to all the bougie places in America. California.
I've never been to Arkansas though.
All that and North Little Rock, man, is nice when it comes to get to that point where you just want to kind of be somewhere that's peaceful. And just naturally beautiful. There's a lot of, they got hot springs and on the Arkansas River kind of feeds throughout the state. And so there's, forestry and the mountains and it's just really pretty, man. It's just, everywhere you go, man, it's just nice and it's kind of quiet. North Little Rock is clean and there's not a lot of going on, a lot of hustle and bustle. And it's eclectic too. So if you're into just like different stuff, dive bars and if you're a food connoisseur like myself, was always looking for inspiration and stuff like that. It's nice, man. It's not that far from us. It's like 4-hour drive, and it's a good scenery, man. And it's just always relaxing when we go. So we try to do that like once a year. So
that's dope. That sounds real dope.
Yeah.
That sounds just what the doctor ordered.
Yeah, exactly what I need. My wife been working the last 14 days, so I know she's ready.
And you timed it perfect. You waited till the NBA finals are over. There's like no sports going on in the world that you need to watch.
Yes, I don't have to worry about nothing, bro. I can sleep all day and I have to worry about missing nothing of my kids. And so they're usually pretty good on vacation too, man, because, we're militant when it comes to vacation, which we talked about my packing techniques and my kids and traveling, man. Like, they have everything they need. Is almost
systematic.
Yeah, man, it's too many of them, bro.
I know. And happy Father's Day, by the way, to you in advance. You got
but the same to you, man.
Yeah, man. Well, you times 5 though, but you know what I'm saying. But compared to me, man,
I sent out a group text to my wife and my kids this a couple days ago, and it said something like, "I know this is not really a big deal at all, but Father's Day is this weekend, just in case you guys didn't remember."
That's funny. That's funny.
Around this time last month, there was a whole lot of energy in the country centered around Mother's Day. I just don't feel like we get the same energy, but
often Father's Day is definitely the throw-in after. It's
it's an afterthought. That's how I feel about it. So I always make sure I remind.
Someone made a great point about the about Golden State. They were like, they were showing all the pops there last night, and it was like 3 of them fathers been in the NBA, and they like. And then Horford, also his dad in the NBA, and then a lot of the players who weren't in the NBA. I mean, like I think Tatum qualifies as that, right? Their father or mother was an amazing athlete too, D1 basketball player. You know what I'm saying? Played overseas, was a pro basketball player, and it's like when you think about that, it's like first of all, shout out to the parents who have showed their kids the way, right? I mean, obviously they wouldn't have been there without that, right? 99.99% of the time. That wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for the parents. So shout out to them, and like shout out to Steph Curry's dad. I mean, it's just amazing, right? Like you think about how great of a player he was, how great of a 3-point shooter he was, and his son becomes the greatest 3-point shooter of all time. It's crazy, right? And not to mention his little brother has a higher percentage than him.
He's a shooter, yes. Like my son says, his little brother has a strap too.
Yeah. The bad player in the family shoots a better 3-point percentage than you. You know what I'm saying? You're the greatest shooter of all time. What is that saying? You know what I'm saying? Like who wins at horse?
Exactly.
Definitely not dad. But it's just an interesting point when you think of like Father's Day. And you think about all the fathers who are in their kids' lives, who've first of all, that's an accomplishment in the first place. It shouldn't be, but it is, right? It's just being in your kid's life is a big deal. We know today that's super important. And it's like you look at the NBA now and you think about how many players grew up in households where there was an elite athlete. And it used to just be, it was like, yo, this might be the meal ticket out the hood for a lot of kids. You just see a scrap work hard. It was like,
Yeah,
yo,
that
there's
generation
always
just
hoop.
came and went now. Yep.
Yeah. Now it's
Jordans
like an
and
elite person sport, but
yep.
now, right? It's like, yo,
Yep.
you got to grow up rich and grow up like a superstar, grow up an NBA player kid, you know? And it's like, you know,
Yep.
grow up
That's
like
the truth, man. That's
growing
the
up the
truth.
Currys. Imagine what that reality show would have been like, you know, when Dell
I
was
know,
still in
right?
the league and Steph was like, you know, 12, going all the games or whatever. Be like, I'm going to be in the NBA one day. And they're like, you probably won't even make Davidson's son. You know what I'm
I
saying?
know.
And then he has a growth spurt and he's taller than me. Well, he's about the same height as me. And it's like, I've never met anyone in my life who's been like, you're short. You know, like I'm a tall human being. Steph Curry's my height. You know what I'm saying? It's like if that doesn't happen, he's not in the league. He doesn't have the athleticism to be in the league without
Nope.
those 4 extra. What he grew 4 inches, I think, while he was in college, right?
4 inches, man.
Yeah,
Changed
and it's
everything.
like everything. You would not be in the league if you wouldn't even been playing with Davidson if you didn't grow them 4 inches, right? You just would have been another great shooter out there who no one talks about, you know, and you wouldn't have got as good as you are because you wouldn't have had to. But and it's like that's amazing and stuff. You just think about all these players who grew up like that, but it still works. So it's like people will be like, "Oh, you have to have that. You have to be like on your last out. It has to be your only way." For like, look at all the players like who are amazing. It's like, nah, actually, some people have the passion and money, and they still get the heart. And you could actually say that in some cases that's just as impressive, if not more so. You know, it'd be like, yo,
Yeah.
you had everything, and you still desire to be a champion like a Clay or a Steph. You know,
But
both
you
of them, their
realize
dads
that
are
that's
players.
true. That's true pretty much about. I mean, I view basketball as a trade too, you know, and so
Mhm.
it's very similar to anything else. You know, if your dad was a carpenter, you were more likely to be a good carpenter, a better carpenter,
Jesus,
because you learned a
Joseph. I see
lot.
what you did there. I see what you did
You,
with the Jesus and
you
Joseph
feel
thing
me?
right there. I
And
see what you did.
so you just have an opportunity. I don't see why people would think with basketball. I think some of it was because of the perception, like especially growing up in the black community. You know, like you said, it was just a way out. But
Right.
if you really think about it, view it as a trade, you know, from a professional perspective, you know, the Stephen Currys, the Klay Thompsons, the Gary Paytons, you know, they're more likely to be better athletes because they had access to the resources and the information
Right.
that they needed to get that head start that most
Right.
kids didn't
Right.
get.
And you can't
And
tell
so
me
it
that
helped.
someone like Gary Payton didn't have the will either. I mean, it's like, yo, I will be. You know, it's like that dude's story is insane. You know, like just
Insane.
to get to where he's at,
Yes, to get
insane.
to where he is, man. Nobody thought. I mean, for years, man. This is the other thing too, man. Just a shout out, man, to some maybe our younger audience or parents of younger athletes. They get too caught up in like the social media era that we're in. They see like the peak of these players and their heights, and they don't realize how many Gary Paytons there are in the NBA that's been around playing some form of pro basketball or semi-pro basketball for the last 5 or 6 years, was really good in college or not, or didn't get a D1 scholarship, paid to go to school and kind of work their way through. And now they're NBA players like Toscano, the guys like that who didn't really get into the finals at all, but to be on the NBA bench is a milestone because, again, that's what, like a 1% of
to play in Europe
actually.
it's like 1%.
It's
You know what I'm
bro. So like to the young athletes or parents with young athletes,
no, it's way less than
like
that actually.
They give up too easy and they expect their kids to be automatically great and don't realize how hard it is to really go pro. So to have some success at all is really a good milestone. You just need to be patient and trust the process.
It's like your 1% plays D1 and like 1% of that 1%, plays in the NBA.
Right.
And it's like you think about getting to just even to overseas. I mean, Jared Sullinger plays overseas. You know what I'm saying? It's like people that you forget about who are elite college players, right? Who've actually made a decent amount of money overseas. I mean, more than most people make in their entire life. We compare it to NBA salaries. I'm like, oh, it's not. Sullinger made like $1 million overseas, in his like first year over there. And you look at players who've made millions playing overseas, and it's like, yo, these dudes are still playing. I play
They
basketball
still-
every day, bro, for free. I show up at the gym and free. Yo, imagine getting paid $1 million to go live in a foreign country and play basketball. And by the way, your housing is free, your cars are free. You just banking that money. Everything's
Insurance
free
is
for you.
free.
Everything's free. You know what I'm saying? And what a life that is. And it's like, you know, for that to be a way out for so many people, it's a great thing. But it's like you start to see it. It's like, oh, that's not going to guarantee you anything. Like you're going to be competing against people who have everything at their fingertips and still want it as bad as you or more, because they're like, I will not just be some other dude who's the son of a son. You know what I'm saying? I will be. You know, look, Jason Tatum was like at 6, was like, I'm going to play in the NBA. You know, he was like, watching his story is insane. It's like, I'm going to play in the NBA. His mother's like, yeah, it's cool. You're also going to make your bed. you are going to be a good person.
Wiggins' mom was like an Olympian or something like that. Like,
yeah, it's always.
Man.
It's
yeah, man,
no, it's all the time.
Like
it's like, it's all the time, and it's like it's the nature and nurture thing coming together. You need both in some cases. You know, Wiggins is one of the tallest humans you'll ever meet in your life. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, and the dude was elite coming into the league, elite, right? And it's like you kind of forget about him. Like, it's just Wiggins. They picked up Wiggins. That's nice. He has some potential, but he's not going to be that dude. He's that dude, right? And it's like, why is the guy that dude? Determination, sticking with it, and oh yeah, he's like 6'8", you know, 6'7", whatever he is, 6'9". I don't know.
You know what's?
But it's
what's
like
crazy.
And his mom's an Olympian.
If he had gotten any of those MVPs, like the last 2 to 1, if he had gotten any one of those, I wouldn't have been able to really argue with that. What he did on both sides of the ball, for Golden State, he was probably the X factor. I mean, I know Steph was important. You know, he scored a lot of points, but what Wiggins did,
was
man,
absolutely,
bro.
Wiggins matched up well against Tatum and Brown. Tatum and Brown didn't see a lot of daylight when he was on them, because he's the body size and athleticism. Not many people are as athletic as Wiggins is, and not many people as athletic as Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum. And it's like he was someone who could match up with them. He could stay in front of them. I mean, it wasn't like he was shutting them down, but it was like, you don't have to shut them down. You just have to force them into doing things that are uncomfortable, and before you know it, they're bouncing the ball off their leg, you know, and that matters. So I was worried about him coming in. I was like, bro, I was saying this in my head to so many people. I'm like, what I'm worried about is Wiggins, because Wiggins is going to match up well with Tatum and Brown. So they have an answer for our 2 players that most teams don't have an answer for. You know, it's like, it's very hard to find someone who can guard Jason Tatum. It's very hard to find someone who can guard Jaylen Brown. You don't have many of those. These are freakishly talented players. You know what I'm saying? Jaylen Brown is an immense athlete, and he's like 6'6.5". You know what I'm saying? And it's like
crazy,
immense athlete. Oh yeah, and he's developed himself into a very competent 3-point shooter. You know, and it's like Jason Tatum is even taller, right, with longer arms, and has way better handle than Jaylen Brown. You know what I'm saying? Off the dribble, he looks like a point guard. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's freakish. It's freakish. And he hits every mid-range shot that he takes, just about. It's like, if he's taking a mid-range shot, it's in. If he's taking a 3, it's usually in. You know what I'm saying? It's like, oh yeah, and he can flush over you. Oh yeah, and he'll D you up. It's like, what? You know, but Wiggins has found it. You know what I'm saying? It took him 8 years or whatever, but you know, he found it. That's what it takes a lot of players. 9 years, whatever it is.
That's the nurture, man. He got around that pedigree. I seen Andre Iguodala spend a lot of time. He who Andre Wiggins was 6-7 years ago. Super athletic, you know, very similar height and length, athleticism. They were basically the same player. Not really great shooters. I think Wiggins is probably a better
Iguodala's
shooter
just got
than
more
Iguodala
cut
was.
than him. Iguodala's just
a little more physical than Wiggins was. But they both were super athletic, about the same height, same length, played the same position. And you can see Iguodala coaching him up the whole time and to making him an elite defender, which is something that kind of changed his game a lot. And it just worked out like you said, that nurture, man, being around Draymond and Iguodala, man, you couldn't help but be a better defender. Like you said, he always had the talent to do it, just didn't have the nurture.
Who does Wiggins most remind you of in terms of NBA players who are amazing? Like, think of an amazing NBA player who Wiggins' game reminds you of. Take a second on that one too.
Like Grant Hill.
Ooh. Maybe not a silky smooth handle, but
not
yeah.
not but he kind of reminds me because, like I said, Wiggins didn't like brutish like Iguodala was, aggressive, but he kind of got a dribble pull up game, athletic, but he kind of puts me in like a Grant Hill, Scottie Pippen kind of long athletic wing. Wasn't a really great 3-point shooter, but could put it in a basket.
You know what he reminds me of? He doesn't look anything like him, so it's kind of a weird comparison, but a Clyde Drexler at his like best. It's like you said, not a great shooter, but a long dude who can flush on you, and is just like, you know what I'm saying? Who's just like, I know it's from a different era, but there's a lot of players in this era who remind me of a Wiggins too. This, maybe a bigger version of this was what was his name? Oh my gosh, I just forgot his name. I totally forgot his name. It totally reminds me of him. Like a Stackhouse, like a Jerry Stackhouse, but obviously, Stackhouse a little more guardish, but just like, got athleticism for days, got an offensive game for days, but couldn't put it together on a good team, for a while. It's like if Stackhouse married Amari Stoudemire and they had a baby, it would be like Wiggins, no, like a even in a way, it's like if Kevin Garnett was shorter, he's got a similar like approach to the game as I know Garnett's totally different animal, but just like the some of the things he does, like you can't leave him open for three. You know what I'm saying? He will flush on you. He's not a guard, but he can dribble the ball. You know what I'm saying? It's like he's Scottie Pippen, kind of one of those kind of guys, right?
It's amazing we having this conversation about Wiggins, man. He's come a long way.
Yeah, but I mean, that was what he was expected to do. He's done what he's expected to do. He just took the long path.
Yeah.
What a pickup, And when you look at it, you look at it like his regular season numbers were like, okay, like yeah, he had a nice year. You know what I'm saying? He had an all-star caliber year, right? What people have been waiting for him, and it's like, but what people thinking now when they got him, they're like, if he gives you 10 and 7, it'd be good. What did he get? Like 14 a game?
Yeah, he went totally under the radar, bro. Outside of Golden State, he went totally under the radar. They knew exactly what they were doing. If you
and he had a nice year the year before too. I mean, it was a nice pickup. He had a nice year the year before.
They mimicked the pedigree.
Oh, he's back. He's back.
They mimicked the pedigree that they had when they won a championship with Iguodala. And they tried to just basically, reinsert those similarities that they had when they won that first championship. And that's
Who's a player like that? Who's a player that had a ridiculous coming out like of college, high school kind of thing? There was the biggest hype in the world, didn't play well for like 8-9 years, and then all of a sudden they had a great year, and you're like, oh, they finally did what they. Oh, dude was actually on the Celtics for a while. What was his name? Oh man, he was like 6'5", 6'6". He was like the number one player in the country. Yeah, he was like number one player in the country. He went to Portland, I think, for a little while. What was his name? He's a funny looking dude. He does spin all the time. Like he'll dribble with his left hand and spin right. He's mid-range game all day. He'd probably still be in the league right now if it wasn't mid-range.
For Boston.
I think he left the league probably last year. He could still be in the league for all I know, but I haven't heard about him in like 2 years. I think he left. No, he did leave the league because he was doing analysis work a couple times on ESPN. There's a J in his name, I think. What's his name? Oh, it's people from Boston probably know his name. But if I just look up Celtics roster from like 2016, Celtics roster 2016.
If I knew his first initial or something like that.
I feel like there's an A and a J in there. Hold on. I just totally can't remember. Hold on. Roster.
Came out of high school.
Celtics. 2016.
Al Jefferson.
Oh, he's a small player. I said he's like 6'5", 6'6".
6'5".
Hold on. I'm gonna find it right here. It was it wasn't 2016. It was 2000, maybe 15 or 14. Hold on. Let's go with 15. I feel like 15 is right.
Came out of. You say he came straight out of high school? Where did he go to college?
I don't know. Evan Turner. That's who it was. Ohio State. Evan Turner. Turner. It was like, remember Evan Turner did nothing for like the beginning. So let's look at what Evan Turner did.
He was kind of long, Turner, yeah.
Yes. He was big. Evan Turner was I don't know what he is, 6'6". He's listed as 6'6", 220. 6'6". He's listed as, I'm looking right here. So Evan Turner, his first year in the league, he was supposed to be the best player like ever, right? He scored 7.2. And he had 9.4. Then you get to Philly, in his third year at Philly, 13.3. So people are like, oh, maybe he's not a bust. Next year, 14. And like, okay. Oh no, that was same year. So because he get traded. So you get traded. And to what happened? He went to Philly. Oh, and then he went to Indiana. So he had 7.1. He had 7.1 there, a little 17.4 streak in Philly, and average together was 14 a game, right? Next year he is 9.5 when he comes to Boston. Then he hits 10.5 and they get to the playoffs. And he becomes a big deal because he was playing off the bench and his shooting got better. So I'm looking at his 3-point shooting. He gets to Portland. Yeah, he was never a 3-point shooter, but he had a little run. It was shooting 288, 500, 27%, 24%, 26%. Gets to Portland, shoots 31.8. People starting to say he has a 3, and then the next year he's back down to 21%, and that was his last year, pretty much in the league. 219, 220 year. He played for Atlanta and only played like 19 games. So yeah, he dropped down to 3 a game. But he had that 17.4 year in Philadelphia, and people like, he's arrived. Like, he's fine. Yeah, he's here. And so yeah, it takes some players time. You know, he went 7, 9, 13, 14, 17. You know what I'm saying? And then started playing a bench role when he came to the Celtics.
I think it's 9.5,
10, but it's solid though. And he got a big contract.
Man. That's all it takes, man. You get that one big bag, bro.
Yeah.
He
played great. He played great for the Celtics in the playoffs, and he got the big bag from Portland. Portland paid him. So I was rooting for him too. I'm like, man, I hope this guy makes the money, right? He came in, he got 4 million, 4.9, 5.2, 6.6, comes to Boston, had to take like the minimum or something. He got like 3.2, 3.4, the mid-level exception, right? But he killed it for the Celtics in the playoffs. He really stepped up huge. Portland pays him 16.3 in 2016 when everyone started getting the money. He got 16 million, 17 million, 17 million, 18 million from the Timberwolves in his last year. He ended up making $100 million, $98,222. So I mean, it's like take some players' time, you know,
bro. Like my boy always say, NBA. You know what NBA stands for? Never broke again.
Never broke again. Yep. That's what NBA.
Man, let me go and jump, brother. I gotta get
NBA
it in the
young
morning,
boy says,
man.
yeah, I gotta go. I gotta do it too. All right, man. Pleasure. Celtics postmortem party is a wrap. Hopefully they get as far next year and just win 2 more games. All right, man.